Joining me is Brad Friedman. He's an investigative journalist at bradblog.com. Brad, over the last few weeks, we've been covering individually all of the different voter ID, voter suppression, election fraud tactics that are being employed by the right, which has kind of turned into its own campaign, right? It's separate from issues, it's separate from debates, it's separate from swing states. This is really a campaign that's out there essentially to steal the election regardless of what the will of the voters is. Talk a little bit about your research. What's the latest thing on this front? I mean, we've got the training of the poll challengers. We've got strategic allied consulting being fired. There's so many things. I don't even know what's the big thing to tell people about.
You know what? There's so many big things. I don't even know what to tell people. I mean, this is, and people who know me, who know our work at Bradblog, know that pretty much year-round, I'm out here trying to warn people, hey, everyone else is looking at the horse race. I'm trying to warn people to look at the track conditions, because the track conditions on which the horses run often have as much to say about who wins and loses as anything else. And it is those track conditions that are really starting to affect this race and concerning a lot of people finally this year, as well they should. You've got an unprecedented effort, at least in the modern era, at least in the post-Jim Crow era, to really game every aspect of that track, if you will, that the horses are running on, trying to keep people from voting, from being able to cast their vote at all, and frankly, trying to keep people from even registering to vote, as we found this week or last week in an investigation at bradblog.com. There is a Republican effort across the entire country, a voter registration effort that is involved with this Nathan Sproul and his strategic allied consulting group, but even larger than that, it seems, to essentially lie to potential registrants, tell them that tell them that they're pollsters instead of voter registration workers, in order to filter out Obama supporters to keep them from being able to register to vote at all. It's a really appalling strategy, and we've caught them doing it now on videotape in Nevada, in Colorado, in Virginia, in Oregon, in California. It's going on all across the country, where these folks are signing up people to vote, but instead of being straightforward about that, they say, hey, we're taking a poll today. Are you voting for Obama or Romney? And if they say Obama, they say, great, thank you for taking the poll. If they say Romney, they say, great, are you signed up to vote? If not, here's a registration form. Let me help you vote. So they're gaming this system from that front end before people even register. Then
let's even stop there just for a second. I mean, it goes bottom up, right? Number one is we've seen the videos, including the video of the young girl in Colorado claiming to be working for the county office, but she actually wasn't, really doing exactly what you're saying, trying to register only Romney voters. And then we simultaneously had the efforts, like in Florida, to question, to put the imperative on voters to prove that they are actually eligible. Let's say you get past that. We're seeing these efforts of the poll challengers who are going to be there on election day, even if you don't legally need to show an ID, a picture ID, to go through the lines and scare people by saying you're going to need to show an ID, with the hopes that people will just leave. And then let's say you stay and you actually cast your ballot. Then it turns out that Hart Intercivic, which is controlled by Bain, owns the voting machines in a number of different key states, and it's actually known that these voting machines have faltered in the past.
Well, yeah, that's and by the way, you forgot one step there, David. That is the idea of being able to get to a poll that is open to vote at all, because they're limiting early election days, early election hours, and so forth. So yeah, if you can run that entire gauntlet, if you're allowed to register to vote, if you can get to the polls, if you're allowed to cast your vote without being challenged, yes, there is the very serious question, and this is something that I've been trying to point out of late as well, because with all of the concerns about the front-end suppression going on, there's something equally as important, and that is the back end. That is, will your vote be counted? Will it be counted accurately? And will it be counted accurately in a way that you can know it is counted accurately. And the clear question to that is, no, you won't know because of the systems that we use. You mentioned the electronic voting systems by Hart InterCivic, but add to that every single other electronic voting system that we use in all 50 states, and I'm not just talking about touchscreen systems, I'm talking about optical scan systems as well, because those are computers as well, and unfortunately we do not check them to make sure they counted the ballots correctly. They are also owned by operatives from the right and from the left, if you will. I don't care. I'm troubled, that we have privatized our electoral system to be counted on these computers, that we simply do not check for accuracy, and even if we do, we can't know for sure that they're counting the votes accurately. So this is very troubling. It's a front-end strategy. It's a back-end concern. And this goes, as you pointed out, David, very smartly, well beyond the candidates themselves, well beyond the issues. And it's something that I yell and scream about year-round. I wish other people would do it not in the week or two before the election,
right,
when it's by and large too late to do too much about it. But, all year round, when we can finally say, look, let's get rid of these electronic voting systems that are privatized, that are not transparent, replace them with, hand counting at the precinct on election day so that the citizenry can oversee its own results and make sure that the election is tabulated accurately. That's what we must do.
The one thing we didn't touch on too much is the exit polls that have basically been canceled by the National Election Pool, and I think it's 19 states. Initially, the reaction was, well, none of these are really competitive states anyway, so we don't really need to worry about it. But there are still problems with this, right? I mean, the exit polls at least serve as somewhat of a baseline to compare election results to, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem. We use exit polls all around the world as a check and balance against fraud. And when you take away that check and balance, as we seem to take away more and more of these, but now the exit polls themselves in these 19 states, yes, you have nothing to compare it to. You've already got votes that are counted in secret in these computers in a way that we have no idea if they're being counted accurately or not. The only hedge against that in many places are these exit polls. And now those are gone in 19 states. Now you can say that, they're not competitive states, but a couple of things troubled me with that. One is that if they're not competitive states, but if they show up the opposite in the presidential race, an opposite result of what people expect them to be, people will say, oh, well, what do you know? It was what a surprise in that state. And they'll have nothing to compare it to say, well, was it really a surprise, or did somebody game the system, or was there just an error? Secondly, and this is a great frustration for me, the presidential election is not the only race on the ballot this November. There are state races, congressional races, local races, and they are all affected by all of these things that we're talking about. Access to the polls, who gets to vote, the accuracy of the voting system. They are all affected by these factors, and exit polls serve, once again, as a check and balance against all of those things so that we can try to have some idea whether the results are accurate. Now remember, for years now, the exit pollsters have stopped releasing their raw data because the raw data that they released in 2004 showed that John Kerry won in almost all of the swing states, that the election results from the machines showed that George W. Bush won. So,
right,
the way to deal with that is the exit pollster said, well, we're not going to release that data anymore. The other thing that they do is they actually adjust the data at the end of the night to match up with the election results, which seemingly defies the purpose of having exit polls in the first place. So these are losing their value over time, and it's getting even worse now when they're just removing them entirely in 19 states. I think people should be very, very troubled about that.
Incredible. All right, we've been speaking with Brad Friedman. He's an investigative journalist. Bradblog.com is the website. You've got to make sure to get his newsletter. I don't know if it's daily or how often it goes out, but it's fantastic stuff that you've got in there, Brad, so keep up the good work.
Thanks, David. I really appreciate it. Appreciate all that you're doing, and thanks for paying attention to these issues. I wish more people were doing so.
All right, let's take a break. Plenty more. Stay tuned after this.